Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. Now, I have here today a very special guest. This man has worked with some of the Hollywood elite, such as Robert De Niro, Denzel Washington, Jodie Foster. He worked on Inside Man, The Brave One, even Laugh Killer Laugh for the Love of the Game. He's done quite a bit of stuff, even got some writing credits to his name. Please welcome to the show, Vic Colicchio. How you doing, my friend?
Good. You're the first interviewer that ever got my name pronounced correctly. You know that?
Well,
Proud
I
of it.
try to do my due diligence and make sure I don't start off the interview fucking up right off the bat. I don't want to do that. I might do it later, but I don't want to start it off doing that.
We can curse. We can curse on the show.
Yes, you can say whatever you want.
All right. So I don't have to monitor myself.
No, sir. You can let it all hang out.
Okay. You do this. Continue. Oh, there we are. Now I can see.
All right. So, I mean, as I said, you've been in the movie industry for quite a while, but before we get into that, man, let's kind of start from the beginning and kind of tell us, like, where you grew up, what part of town, and then what kind of got you into, the acting and directing and the entertainment business.
Well, yeah, originally from the Bronx, and I was originally a musician. From my early teen years for over a dozen years at least. And I had gotten married and realized, and I thought that being in a rock band might not be the best atmosphere for a young marriage. So I quit and I got a job in a hotel. And with me, music was always more of a need than ambition or desire. It was just something inside me. I just had to do it from the
Right.
time I'm 8 years old, I was saying. And so I got a job in a hotel. I worked, I was the owner Helmsley's butler for a while. On occasion, I worked in the dining room and the front desk. And I was at the front desk, and a guy came up to me and he said, "Do you know how to make a pizza?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "I might have a job for you." And I go, "What does it pay?" And he told me, and I said, "Well, I get that much a week now." He goes, "No, this is for a movie. That's what you get a day." I said, "Really? A day?" "Yeah, yeah. I want a job." So I went down and I auditioned for the director, and when I got the part, I got my SAG card, and then I got another principal role in an independent film called Rocky Point, written and directed by Peter Gazzardo, and I got a couple of minor roles in big movies, and then I decided to take it seriously, and it just so happens that this writer and director, Robert Moresco, he was working with the hotel unions, and he started this thing called the Actors Gym because everybody, many people in the industry want to be actors, and they would meet once a week, and writers would come in with material, actors would read it or bring in pieces they wanted to work on. And then from that, I got cast in two plays, one which Bobby wrote and directed, and ironically, Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos,
Hmm.
we were co-stars in it, and that's how we met, and we're friends to this day. And Bobby went on to win the Oscar for the movie Crash. So we did the play like as a workshop, developing it and improving it. So I learned a lot from Bobby as a writer and as a director. And when Spike Lee decided to direct my first screenplay, which I co-wrote with Michael, Summer Sam, he put us through a lot of different drafts, and I learned how to perfect the craft through him. You know,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting, man. Because you had kind of had the script, somewhat mapped out, and then Michael came and kind of, gave his 2 cents. If I'm correct on that,
Well,
obviously you knew Michael from before, but what's it
yeah.
like? Sometimes working with someone on a project and then working with them writing, that can be a different relationship. Was he good to work with as far as
we
writing?
laughed, we laughed through the whole thing.
Okay.
You know, I had about four drafts of it. Michael was going to direct it, but it was his first time directing, and it was hard to get a deal with a first-time director. You're talking
Right.
about handing millions of dollars over to a novice, and so finally we met with a lot of directors. I didn't like any of them. Michael didn't like some of them either. So finally he said, "Look, Spike, you pick the director. Just pick someone you think can do a better job than you, and if not, why don't you just direct it?" And and he did. Actually read about it in the paper a few days later that he did it, and he called me up, and so it really, was a big boost, my career. So
Yeah,
uh,
well, a lot of Sopranos alum on there. I mean, Michael co-wrote it with, or co-writing it with you rather. He played obviously Christopher Moltisanti in
yeah,
there for pretty much the show's entirety. I think he might have went about 5 episodes before the end. Michael Rispoli was in
oh
there as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I worked with Tony Sirico. I worked with Vinny Pastore in films before, a lot by director John Gallagher. And Vinny and I were caregivers in the Bronx for the same company.
really.
So it's funny, yeah. But just getting back to the acting, like I said, I wanted to take it serious, so I joined that workshop, and I really loved the theater a lot more than film. And then I decided, I wanted to see how it really ran. And I went and I did a lot of extra work, my wife and I, double salary every day. And, once I felt I had the knowledge. And then when my daughter was born, I got called in by Gary Marshall um, to understudy Tony Danza in a play he was doing starring George C. Scott. And I got the part, and I got to go on and play opposite George C. Scott. And from my appearances when I went on, I got a lot of agents and directors saw me, and I just started working steady, ever since. I don't think I had a regular job. I don't want to say, I don't want to give my age, right?
That's cool, man. How you work into it like that, and you keep plugging away, and then things just kind of happen for you. If you don't mind me asking, what did you work on with Tony Sirico? Because I mean, obviously, I've never met him personally, so I got to go off the character that I've seen on the screen. But he seems like he would be quite a fun guy to work with and to hang out with.
It's a lot of fun. A very funny guy. Too. I worked with him in Bullets over Broadway, uh,
Okay.
with Chaz Palminteri. I
Yeah.
worked with him in about 8 other films with John Gallagher, Men Live, Deli, so many more. I can't even remember how many. And Vinny was in it too. John Gallagher discovered almost every soprano. He was putting them in his films and stage long before they hit it big.
Wow.
But yeah, Tony is a fun guy. He is.
I get a kick out of his. Me and the wife, we'll go back and watch Sopranos about once a year and just kind of binge through them, real quick, just to give us something to do because there's not a lot of good television on these days. And we'll watch that, and man, he's not even trying to be funny. That's
He's
that's
the
the
real
thing.
thing. He's the
Yeah.
real thing. He's got a resume as an actor and a criminal record as a man.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like just how he pulls things off, and I think that's kind of the genius of it. Is he's not trying to be comedic, but it just works, man. I don't know that Pine Barrens episode with him and Michael
Oh,
is my all time favorite Sopranos episode ever. I mean, that's just I watch that if I'm ever having like a bad day, I just put that shit on and skip straight to when they're in the woods. It's hilarious.
I've actually only seen a few episodes myself. I was never really into these series, although there's something on TV on Paramount called
The Offer.
The Offer. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. It's good.
Now you were actually in a Sopranos episode too, right? One of them, 46 long.
Yeah, I think that's the name. I'm not sure. Yeah, I played Vinny's big pussy's mechanic.
Yeah.
And I've been a singer so long. I still have an accent, but not a mob accent. So I had to get it back up when he asked me, did you get that thing on the teacher? Yeah, sure. Yeah. But there's a difference between a Brooklyn and a Bronx accent.
I did not know that.
Well, not all the time, but mostly, Brooklyn is more like, hey, what are you doing over here? And the Bronx, we're more like Bugs Bunny. Yeah, why are you on? I'm a little more nasally. In fact, when John Leguizamo got cast in Summer Sam, he wanted me to coach him as. I keep looking this way. I can't look at the camera, right? Am I looking
Yeah.
at you now?
Yeah, you're looking at me.
Can you see my eyes?
I'm trying to.
But but he asked me to coach him. He's from Queens. I said, well, Bronx and Queens are very close. He did a good job, and not having to concentrate on an an accent, freed him up as an actor. He did a great job.
Nah, he done good, man. Him was Mira Sorvino, I think, played his wife. Just that was top notch acting all the way around in there. I mean, I thought that was a wonderful film the way it was laid out.
I was
Um,
in her first movie with a great actor, Paul Calderon, Michael Imperioli. It was
yeah,
called Sweet Nothings. She was very young at the time. And
Brody in that. Adrian Brody was in that, wasn't he?
Sweet Nothings, no, I think he was probably still in high school at that time.
Oh, wow. He done a movie with a similar title then, something along those.
Yeah. I ran into Adrian not too long ago on a film set. He's a great guy.
Oh
No,
yeah. He had to have the British accent there, all in the attitude.
yeah, that's something he brought, into the part that wasn't written in,
Oh
So
really?
yeah, Spike gives his actors, a lot of freedom and you know to improvise. Like I had one scene, I'm playing a racist cop, and I said he asked me about a guy that shot me, and I said it was some spick, and he tells me, look, I appreciate you toning down the racial euphemisms, Sergeant. And I look at him and I go, so, and I go on with the story. So then when he asked me what kid shot me, and I was supposed to say an African American, but I went, an African American. And Denzel got upset. He says, what are you going to do? You're going to tell me that wearing a cop's uniform brought the racist out in you? He says, man, you're fucked up. And I says, no. Listen, I worked on those lines last night to see how I could further the character. He goes, well, why didn't you do it in the rehearsals? And I said, because Spike asked me to save it for a take. He wanted to get you. And he goes, yeah, you got me all right. And then he told me he never improv in a movie before working with Spike. But, like I said, he gives you a lot of freedom. I'd work for him anytime. There's
Yeah.
few directors I'll never work with again. It's too inhibiting.
Now,
You know,
Denzel, man, that seems like a laid back dude, just a masterful actor, great at his craft. What was, I mean, obviously you shared a little bit there, but as a whole, what was your experience like working with Denzel Washington?
well, I never really worked with him per se.
Right.
Uh, my character had interactions on the set with his character, but
Right.
not once during any scene with him was I aware that it was Denzel. He's also a good actor, and he gets into character. He doesn't talk to people between takes. He just goes over his lines, and he's like as you said, a master of his craft, Shakespearean, actor as well,
Wow.
stage. He's good. Well, we got along great after that.
I think probably like the first, there's a time period in my life, early years where I watched movies and I might recognize the actors, but I didn't start like recognizing names and stuff like that till a little later. And one of the first movies where I recognized his name was the movie Ricochet that he did where he played the cop. And it's a funny little play on it because in the movie Training Day, which he went on to win an Oscar for, which he was fantastic
Yeah.
in that movie, he shows a picture to Ethan Hawke of when he was a rookie, and he shows the picture of him from the movie Ricochet. It's like him as a young cop. And it's funny. I said, I don't know how many people's ever seen Ricochet, but the ones that have, they'll get that. But the ones that don't won't have a damn clue what he's talking about. But they'll
Yeah.
just think it's just a random picture. But I thought that was cool. And yeah, he was phenomenal in Training Day. And I mean, really everything since then. I mean, I don't really know if I've seen a bad movie that he's been in, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I watch everything I can. Well, getting back to that play with Michael and Bobby Moresco, Dan Grimaldi was in it too.
We've interviewed him here on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, it's all the times we stick together. And
Dan's a
you know,
super cool guy, man. We interviewed him here on the show. We talked about some of the plays that he did, some of his first movies. A really smart guy too, like really, really smart dude.
we were filming the movie for Woody Allen called Bullets Over Broadway.
Yeah,
We have a scene where we're robbing a truck, and we're all union, and we're two like 5 minutes, half hour, maybe 20 minutes away from a certain amount of hours where it's called golden time, and with all the overtime that you gathered up until then, which is a lot, golden time now they have to pay a whole day's pay all over again. So we're taking turns screwing up the scenes to get that golden time. Tony does flubs his lines, everyone, and now they're out of things to do. And I says, wait, I have an idea. And Chance goes, look, man, I got to get home, man. I got scripts to read. You know, people want to know yes or no. And I said, and then Tony, Victor, do it, you know. So then he says to Chaz, he says, hey, Chaz, did you see De Niro in Frankenstein? And Chaz goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, I didn't like him. He says, you know, Chaz, you should have played Frankenstein. You wouldn't have needed any makeup. It's funny, you know. So what I did is, you know, they say it's the final shot, we do the last shot. So I go over to Woody Allen. I say, listen, Woody, man, I don't know how to direct a film, but I know how to rob a truck. And I says, you have all 6 of us going around this side. I says, what's to stop them from running around that side? And we chase them around for a half hour like a Three Stooges movie. So he says, well, how would you rob it? I said, I'd send 3 guys this way, 3 guys that way, and surround them. So now it's not the final shot. Now they set up, we got our golden time, and I was the hero.
All right. Yeah, you got your money in there, and it was legitimate. That is a legitimate point.
Yeah, you know, that's what I thought too. Like, the whole time I was filming, I'm going, he doesn't know how to rob a truck. We learned that. I think, what is it, the 4th or 5th grade? They teach us things about it, you know.
Yeah, that's things that I think people don't realize how much thought process really needs to go into a movie. That's why they hire experts and things like that to oversee that. Like there's a show, Sons of Anarchy, that was on TV on FX a few years ago. Really good show, and they hired some former Hell's Angels.
Chuck Zito, he was in it.
Yeah, Chuck Zito, David LaBrava was also in there, and that they kind of gave them, you know, okay, well, yeah, this would be done like this. No, this would never happen. You know, kind of advice on, you know, not to make them look dumb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, there's people today are sophisticated with the internet. People know what's real and what's not real. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
Did you ever work with Zito?
I forget which movie I was in with him. I think it was a John Gallagher movie, but yeah, you know, we know each other, say hello and everything, you know, but you know, traveling kind of different circles, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah, he was he's into the box. I seen him walk out with a lot of the boxers like a Turigatti and Mickey Ward and stuff like that back in the day, and then he done, you know, his stint. He was great in Oz, the prison television show on HBO. He was wonderful in that, I thought.
but you know, even when I did the Brave one with Jodie Foster,
Yes, great.
you know, that director Neil Jordan, A Crying Game, Interview with a Vampire, brilliant guy. And he asked me like about my wardrobe. You know, he asked me my opinion. Even the car I had to drive, he asked me, showed me pictures of cars. You know, I work with him. You know, anytime. It's just it's a pleasure, and they encourage you. Because sometimes you go on, mostly on TV sets, where you know the directors are just so pushy that you feel if you go like this in the scene, why are you scratching your head? Don't scratch your head, you know. And so like when I work with that director, it takes the joy out of it for me. Like I just do the job, and I even make up a song while I'm doing it. I say, hit the mark, say the line, take the check and go home. Hit the mark, say the line, take the check and go home. And I don't like working that way, you know. I don't like being mechanical.
No, I can see that. I mean, it like you said, it almost takes the fun out of it. Be it, yeah, you're doing a job. At the end of the day, you are doing a job. But I think probably some of the more better performances come through when the set isn't filled with tension and stuff like that. I would have.
Yeah, you know, uh, when Ben Gazzara and Summer of Sam, um, he said he liked working the set because there's no, you know, the production assistants aren't yelling at the extras. Nobody's uptight. It's very relaxed. And he told me that one time that he was on a set where the director was yelling, and he didn't come out of his trailer. He said he can't go on a set when there's tension like that. It's just distracting, you know.
I believe it.
He's a brilliant actor. He's one of my favorites. Him, George C. Scott, of course. There's Gary Cooper. I'm always asked which is my favorite actor, but
that was like, the question I was going to get to. Is who is your favorite actor to watch, and then who is your favorite actor so far that you've worked with?
Well, there's just so many of them.
It's hard to narrow it down.
Yeah, you know, it's like whatever good movie I'm watching, that's my favorite. But you know, but like I said, George C. Scott is excellent. You have Gary Cooper. You know, just James Stewart. You know, there's just so many. Jack Lemmon. You know that they're not like Brando, where they give these heavy, heavy performances that are extremely notable. Well, George C. Scott did get the Oscar for Patton, but it's their body of work that
Yeah.
makes them great. Like even Tony Curtis, I had gone the same acting school he went to, and he's from the Bronx. And, whereas you don't really take him serious in a lot of his later 60s love movies, but you look at his body of work. I mean, I think he was nominated, or might have won the Oscar for Boston Strangler, but a friend of mine was producing a film with him, and I asked to go on the set just to meet him. And then he asked me to be his stand-in. He said, because he had an old man who was a stand-in, and the old man had a gray hair like him, and he goes, "No, that guy don't look like me. He looks like me. Pick him for the stand-in." You remember him in the Flintstones? Hi, Wilma. I'm Stoney Curtis. I'm your slave boy for a week.
Oh, that's funny.
No, I mean, in COVID, it's there's so much time in my hand. I have a daughter in Italy, and there it hit there first. It swept across the country like a wildfire. And when you died there, nobody was picking you up because they were afraid.
Yeah.
I went into isolation long before it hit here. I knew it was gonna. Too bad our government didn't. It might not have been as bad.
Yeah.
So your mind wanders. I started, impersonating celebrities. Like I would do Clark Gable. Like, quite frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn. I don't give two shits, a rat's ass, or a flying fuck. You're a slut, Scarlett. You like that Mandingo. Things like that, And then, what else? I was a kid. I was a messenger, and I happened on a movie set, and I don't know, must have been 16, and it was Christopher Walken's first movie, and it was called The Anderson Tapes, directed by Sidney Lumet, and starring Sean Connery, as well as Garrett Morris made his first appearance. Martin Balsam was in it. Excellent cast. But I saw Sean Connery coming out of his trailer wearing a kilt. And then Christopher Walken whispered something in his ear, and Connery whispered something back. And all my life, I imagine, what did they talk about, especially as a kid? What do actors talk about? And then during COVID, I'm sitting around. So I made up a conversation. I said, Chris Walken goes over to Sean Connery in the kilt and goes, "Gee, Sean, that's a very lovely dress you're wearing." So, Sean Connery whispers in his ear. He goes, "Christopher, it's not called a dress. It's called a kilt, because the last man who called it a dress got killed." Telling you in COVID,
Oh, those are spot on impersonations through both of them, man. Walken is just one of them. There's certain actors that I say they play the same. It's the same guy in every movie. Like certain actors will change to their role, but then certain actors are the same person no matter what role they're playing. One of them is Christopher Walken, and the other one is Kevin Bacon. Like he's changed his accent a little bit for City on the Hill to give it a little bit more Boston feel to it. But those two guys are the same guy no matter what movie they're in, and it's just their demeanor, how they do it. It's just, and you nailed it spot on with his impersonation right there.
Oh, well, it's more of a mimic than anything. And then I imagine, like, Chris Walken's hungry, and so he calls up Al Pacino, and he says, "Al, I'm starving. Would you like to join me in one of those lovely Italian restaurants that you know so much about?" So Pacino goes, "Christopher, if I told you once, I told you 100 times, I don't like eating out with you in public, because when you order off the menu, you embarrass me with those unusual speech patterns of yours." Can you imagine them together in a restaurant?
You got to order from the menu.
Hey, that's good. Of yours.
Oh man, he's hilarious. I was talking to, I can't even remember who I was talking to the other day about his antics and stuff. I think we were talking about the movie Heat and how he just, well, a number of movies really, but that one where he just would just yell out. And I was saying to myself, I don't know if anybody else could pull it off doing that the way he does. If anybody else does that, they might just look stupid, but for him, it works.
He's a, fascinating actor. He's, you can't take your eyes off him. Just like they said about him in the movie The Offering. He's just so unpredictable.
Hmm.
And actors don't like working with children and animals because they're so natural. And because they're so natural, they pull you in and they steal scenes, you know. And
Yeah.
that's how I think, you know, like Al Pacino is. And another great actor, you know, he's considered more of a movie star than an actor is Johnny Depp. If you look at his body of work, all the different roles he played, Edward Scissorhands. I saw him in, I forget the name of the movie. It was like an Alfred Hitchcock type of a movie. His, of
Sweeney
course, I,
Todd. I think it's Sweeney Todd. He did the
yeah, you
barber.
know,
Yeah.
and so I think because of his looks and you know him being like a teen idol, a superstar, you know, people in the business, other actors dig his work, you know, but you think of great actors, you'll think of De Niro, you'll think of Marlon Brando, James Dean, Montgomery Clift, Richard Burton, you know,
Hmm.
Sir Laurence Olivier, you know, you'll think of them. And it's nothing, it's a great list of female actors too. Marilyn Monroe, same thing, it's brilliant.
Oh,
What she
absolutely.
did. Angie Dickinson, I've seen her early films, brilliant. There's, of course, Meryl Streep, and there's Jane Seymour. There's just so many, you know, brilliant actors. It's hard to have a favorite.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Depp is. I would consider him one of my favorites for sure. Like the movie Blow, one of
Yeah.
my personal favorites, where he portrayed George Young.
The
Um,
Night in Cuba, he played a drag queen, you know.
yeah, and even talking about Al, him and Donnie Brasco, where he played in there with Al Pacino and Michael Madsen and James
Well,
Russo. I mean, that was a fantastic film.
that's the only film I didn't like him in. I just didn't feel he had any garlic in his veins or olive oil in his blood. He
Yeah,
didn't come close to like Italian. It was James Caan in The Godfather. I always thought he was Italian, you know,
yeah.
but
For a long time, I did too.
he's from New York. And honestly, you know, going back old school, the Italians and the Jews, you know, from the boroughs, Brooklyn and the Bronx, they are hard to tell them apart. But yeah, you know, with Johnny Depp, you know, it's I wasn't interested. I figured it's none of my business what's going on between him and his ex. But I've seen posts on Facebook and what he's going through and his divorce, his whole ordeal mirrored mine. You know, so much. You know, with the lying and you know under the advice of lawyers and just like his case, you know, the truth came to light in my case too. You know,
Right.
but in the beginning I had friends of mine that I introduced my wife to, and they were taking her side and thinking I was like I sounded like Chris. They were taking her side. Chris Wilkinson.
They were on
But,
our side.
but when the truth came out, you know, the truth prevailed. And so I've been following it, you know, especially because uh, uh, defamation of character is a very hard thing to prove in court. And so
Yes,
the legal aspects are fascinating, you know. I'm a big Perry Mason fan too. That's another favorite actor, you know.
Harry Mason. Now,
Yeah,
I
Perry
think
Mason,
he
Raymond Burr.
in all of this, I think he's going to come out even more liked and more well received than before. And like you said, everybody loved him. You never heard really a bad word about Johnny before all this. And I think after this, people are going to love him even more because they're seeing the light of what really happened and what really transpired, through him. And I was talking with Dave Accavetti the other day out of Florida, and I think it was a couple episodes ago. And we were saying, like, there's only one thing that can keep a man involved in a relationship, with somebody that's cutting the tips of your fingers off, you think's messing around, just literally took a shit in your bed. There's only one thing, and that's got to be that the sex is just off
Sex,
the fucking
sex,
charts.
sex. You know, that's what kept my marriage going for so long. And then, yeah, I mean, it was harder towards the end of our marriage. It was over 20 years than in the beginning. But she turned born again Christian on me, and it's like, so I told her, go to hell.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh,
she was imposing it on my daughter who's a musician, wanting her to play Christian music in the house. It's like, no, no, no. You know, you want to thump a Bible, do it yourself. You know, I'm a Roman Catholic. Your church is a cult as far as I'm concerned. You don't believe in the Pope. But what's the matter with you?
what's the matter with you?
Why you eat a meat on a Friday, you're gonna go to hell. That's what God say.
Oh man.
You know,
Um,
I support Johnny Depp. strongly because it must have been a nightmare. You know, like I said, I lost friends over it until the truth came out. And some were in the business, and it did affect a couple of jobs for me that some directors and everything were like, they didn't want to get involved. So to show my support, look what I did. I got the double earrings like him, right?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, on both sides, you know. And here, I'll show you. Here we go. Got the glasses. I always had these in the hat, but it's like this.
Dep is so
Dep,
cool.
Dep is the new Dapper. Dep is the new Dapper. Go, Johnny, go, go, go. I've been there.
That dude, man, he's just so good, and his the things he wears, like he wears an awful lot of man jewelry, and that's not a lot of things that most everybody can pull off. But he just looks so damn cool. And they were actually using that in court the other day because they were saying, Mr. Depp wears rings, right? And she's like, yeah, and then she was like, well, if you're saying that he hit you, you should have marks all over your face because he wears these gaudy rings on every finger, and it was almost like she boxed herself into a lie.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's so many women out there that are victims of domestic abuse, and this is going to make people second guess them.
Yeah,
And they're going to have to go out of their way to with hard evidence. And Johnny Depp had those lawyers, and he was able to do the research and and I'm so glad that he's out of trouble. But I feel sorry for women that are victims of domestic abuse.
oh, absolutely.
They're going to think twice before they believe them right off the bat. And you're going to hear in a lot of divorce cases that another Amber Heard, you're going to hear that coming up, and it's sad,
Interestingly enough, we spoke earlier about James Caan. When you and I spoke on the phone before we were trying to set up a time for this meeting, you being Italian, you actually had, after that, a lot of roles where you were playing Hispanic characters. Tell us a little bit about that, like kind of how that happened.
Well, I noticed that when they did cast Italian guys, they were like very character, overweight, old, and everything. And I just didn't have the face of a mobster, and so I knew there were a lot of upcoming movies, in New York at the time with drug dealers, gangsters, cartel guys, and there was a guy who lived in the building next to me named Kiki. He was a junkie, an ex-boxer, in and out of jail. And so I mimicked him, got to have my dentist build me a gold tooth I could put in and out. I would put scars in my eyes. In those days, like the ponytail was in the guys, short hair, but the long rat's tail going down.
Yeah.
I have a tattoo artist draw tattoos on my arms. And so I did, most of my work, 90% is, Latino actors. When I auditioned for Sidney Lumet, the night before, I was watching a talk show, and one of the producers, Colicchio, Broadway, was on, and he was saying that when they called Sean Connery, it was really unknown at the time, for the fourth time, they says he planted his big mitts, hairy mitts on our desk, and he said, look, I've been here 4 times already. Either you want me or you don't. And he storms out. So they said, fuck him, get Roger Moore's agent on the phone. And then when they were looking out their window, they saw him darting through the London traffic, like so cool, like through those cars, because that traffic's crazy. He's dodging it. And they said his 6 foot something frame dwarfing the cars around him. And they go, damn, that's Bond, right? So I said, wow, what a cool story. I want to get one like that, right? So I called him by Sidney Lumet, one of the greatest directors of all time. 12 Angry Men, so many great movies. And it was a thing called Q&A with Nick Nolte, Armand Assante.
Yeah.
Louis Guzman was in it, and Timothy Hutton was in it. And so I go in, and I got the tattoos, I got the gold tooth, the stripe, the hand, and I'm talking like this. So I said to him, hey, listen, Mr. Lumet, my resume speaks for itself, but my criminal records more than qualifies me for this part. Now you could either, hire me, or you can get some pussy actor to pretend they're me. And the casting director is behind her. She's going like this, like I'm dead. I'm never working again in the business. And Sidney Lumet was like, and I went, you got the part. And then the casting director was like, Victor! Oh, Hector. Hector. I was going by the name of Hector Colicchio. Hector, welcome aboard.
I knew you had it all along.
I didn't expect to get the part, but it was only like a couple of days work. But I just wanted to have a story to tell.
Right. No, that's funny, man. About all these people, what types of films do you enjoy watching? Because I find, a lot of times when I was talking to actors, a lot of times some of them don't even watch movies. They don't watch TV. They do other things. But then some of them do, but then they don't like necessarily watching the genre that they're in. If they're a more serious actor, they prefer to watch comedies. What's some of the things that you enjoy watching?
I watch all kinds of movies. I love movies all my life.
Hmm.
And, I watch the old black and white ones, the Thin Man, Clark Gable movies.
Hmm.
I'm not a particular fan of science fiction. I like the early Star Wars. The other ones are just more of the same, basically.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Harry Potters, Lords of the Ring. First ones are always great. Then they just become a little repetitive. But yeah, the new James Bonds, car chase fights, car chase fights. It's not like the early ones, but it had a decent story. But some science fiction I like. I saw District 9 for the first time a couple of weeks ago. It's one of
Wow.
my favorite movies now. What
Yeah.
brilliant movie that was.
So
on
what?
so
Peter
many,
Jackson did that, right?
yeah, so many levels.
Yeah.
Let It Be, I like that one.
Yeah.
The new one that came out it's great insight.
I live down here in Charleston, and a lot of films actually, not necessarily the whole film, but parts of it have been filmed down here. There's a scene in the Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, with Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I like those movies a lot. I
Yeah,
like the Die Hards.
and
Because the relationship between them.
yeah, the buddyism, the camaraderie there.
Yeah.
They're
Bruce
filming
Willis I
on a
like too.
bridge.
I like him too.
Yeah, no, he's a fantastic guy. I hate he's a little sick right now. He's got some stuff going on, so I hope
Yeah, he lives across the street. I catch him in the supermarket every now and then.
really.
Yeah, cool guy. Does the shopping for the kids.
Yeah, that's cool,
I
man.
love Charleston. I've been down there a few times.
Yes,
We have this one
it's starting to pick up steam to get some stuff down here to be filmed. I guess because it's cheap. Danny McBride, who does his Righteous Gemstone
I
show,
love him. Everything with him. The one where he was the school teacher.
yeah, Vice Principals,
Yeah, I love that one. Of course, Eastwood Bound. What is it called?
Eastbound and Down. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
everything. Pineapple Express.
Yep.
It's just he's just got that personality.
Yeah, he's funny as hell, man. They shot some of Eastbound and Down here. His company was it Rough House Pictures, I think it is. They done the Halloween, the new Halloween where it's not a remake, but they called it Halloween when they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back. It's about 4 years ago now. They shot that down here in Charleston.
Hey, is the Swanee River anywhere near Charleston?
What is it?
The Swanee River.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Because I learned it for you. Yeah, it's the only Southern song I know, man. See my guitar here? This one, I bought it just because it matched my furniture. Yeah, but it wound up. It's a great guitar, Schecter. The artist series, specially designed. Instead of having one round hole, it has three. It's a great sound to it.
It does match the furniture quite well.
Birds on the fretboard, and this here one. This is a George Harrison model that he played with the Beatles. Fetch.
Wow.
Country gentleman. Yeah. I still play music. I play in small little cafes, but I do, from doing like rock and roll songs all my life. Now I do Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole. Kind of music you don't have to pay attention to while you're reading, and I like it. It's not a performance like where you got to take a bow after every song.
Now, have you lived in New York mostly like your whole life?
Yeah.
Now, what I like to ask people this because
I moved to Manhattan. I was about like 16.
Yeah, I remember watching this, as it happened. How close were you to like when 9/11 happened down there?
Oh man, a nightmare. I could see it from my window, and I had two young kids at the time, and I was on a TV series called Third Watch. I played
Right.
Roger Howe. Roger Howe, could you believe that? But, I was a fireman, had to go through training and everything, and I had a couple of real firemen there. You know, William Murray, and we were buddies, and he called me from there, and he had his wife call me and said they're smelling things that they haven't ever smelled in his life as a fireman. He worked for Rescue One, and he said as soon as they opened the tunnels and bridges, get my wife and kids, get out of it. They say like you and I, 20 years from now, we get something wrong. Who cares? We're old anyway, but you got kids and you gotta. So I did that. As soon as they opened it up, I took my wife and kids to our parents' house in Pennsylvania, and wound up buying her a house out there. You know, and I go back and forth with my kids from New York to Pennsylvania. You know, but you know, it was scary when I seen what happened. The first thing I thought of when they were closing everything was food, and we went to the grocery store, and there were lines. So I told my wife, you wait online. I'm going to go to the health food store, which is more expensive, and it was empty. And I cleared the shelves, you know. And then, you know, took a little bit of everything. I didn't do any hoarding, you know. I figured, you know, who knew what was going to happen? But
Right.
I thought we were going to be like, you know, one of these countries where bombs are going off, and there was rumors that there's a third plane missing, and I live in the shadow of the Empire State Building, and they said that could be the next target. It was horrible. You know, I always looked at New York as an invincible city. We don't get tornadoes, hurricanes. You know, it's nothing like that. You know, you see it happening all over the country, especially recently.
Yeah.
I felt invincible, and I can only equate how I felt about my city is like to have a daughter, teenage daughter, being raped. That's what I felt like it was. My city got raped. It was brutal and horrible, you know. And you know, I'm thinking about getting a tattoo of the New York City skyline here with the Twin Towers. I gotta wait till winter, you know. But
Yeah, you got. That's when you got to get your tattoos is wintertime. That way you don't have to avoid water and sunning and everything during the summer.
yeah, I came on the show to have fun. I don't want to bring you down. It's your theme song. But yeah, I love Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So,
Fun, man. Next time you come down here, you got to hit me up. We'll go out for a drink or something.
all right. And when you're up north, you know,
Well, I'm coming up there pretty soon, a couple weeks. I don't know when this episode is going to drop, but I'm coming up there in June. So I'll definitely, if you're around, man, hit you
how
up,
long will
grab
you
a
be up
drink
here?
or something. Huh?
How long will you be up here for?
That day I'm coming up on Friday, and I'll get there probably about 1 o'clock, and then I'll be heading back home Sunday.
You got a hotel already and everything?
I haven't booked one yet. I'm looking around. I'm trying to figure out which one, what kidney I got to sell to afford a hotel up there. I don't.
You know, I forget what movie I saw, and it was down south. I think it might have been in South Carolina, where a guy asked somebody, "What's a Yankee?" And they says that's a guy that comes from up north, makes all his money down here, and then goes back north. You know what a damn Yankee is? It's a guy who comes from up north, comes down here, makes all his money, and then stays here.
No, Charleston, man, is such an influx of people. Like I rarely
Yeah,
bump into very many people that are from here. They're
I
from
got so many New
Philly.
Yorkers
Yeah,
in South Carolina that I know. My
yeah,
my sister, her sister-in-law, mother-in-law are down there, you know. But I know so many New Yorkers, and
yeah. A lot of people from Ohio down here.
yeah,
I don't know. I told him, I said, you guys moved down here because you want to win a national football championship, you know, because you're not going to get one up there in Ohio. So you got to, come here and piggyback off Clemson and teams
I
like
think
that.
the whole South is like that now. You know, with the internet and everything, you know, the country got a lot smaller, and you know, this new generation, they don't have a, you know, let the boundary lines separate us anymore. And I know Nashville is a place where a lot of young, you know, early 20s, mid 20s New Yorkers are moving to. I know so many of them. So,
Yeah, that's a fun town, man. Have you ever been down to Nashville?
oh yes, Nashville. I've been down, Graceland a few times.
Yeah,
Long live the king, man.
yeah.
You know, uh, Alabama.
Do you see that new Elvis movie they got coming out?
Looks great, man.
It does. It does.
I'm first in line to see it.
I don't know who that kid is that's playing Elvis, but he looks fucking spot on.
And exactly. Well, here, I'll show you something. Hold on one second.
All right.
I used to, early in my career, to support my family, I was actually an Elvis impersonator. And I actually got to write a song with Otis Blackwell, who wrote Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, Return to Sender, Handyman, Fever, Great Balls of Fire. And the flip side was with Doc Palmer's. He wrote Little Sister, Teenager in Love, This Magic Moment, Viva Las Vegas. So I recorded the two songs with them. And, this was the album cover. And the songs are, I'm so glad they still play Elvis songs and his music will never die. That's me there.
Wow.
I know, it's like, geez, that's my ex-wife when she used to be a woman before she turned born again Christian, Bible thumpers, cults.
Oh, Jesus, that's funny, man. Listen, I've had a blast on this interview, man. I could talk movies and entertainment business with everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I got into, this podcasting thing, because I was always that type of guy, especially when DVDs first come out, where you could go back and watch the commentary and stuff like that on them and get, kind of behind the scenes of, okay, well, this was shot like this, or this was done on this day, and we had this going on. Those things always interested me. Some people would be like, why the hell would you watch a movie with people talking over it? And I'm like, well, I've already seen the movie. It's not like I'm just doing this off the rip,
Well, I was the only one that did that. Nobody I know does, but it's interesting.
Yeah, matter of fact, Blow, the movie we were talking about with Johnny Depp earlier, I think it was a New Line movie, so their DVDs back then, this was before Blu-ray, but they had what was called an Infini film. And it was just a shitload of extras on the DVD. And I think it had like 4 different commentary tracks. You had one with Depp. You had one with, I think it's Ted Demme, because there was 2 brothers, Ted and Jonathan. I think Ted's the one that died, that did Blow. But it was like 3 or 4 different commentary tracks. And I watched all of them. I mean, I just enjoyed it so much, just watch them. And just little tidbits, because like at the end of the movie, when Depp's arrested and they go in and like offer him the deal, Ted Demme is actually the guy that done the movie. Like I said, he's since passed away, but he was the lawyer. And so he was like, we had tried to do this scene so many times, and he was like, I kept fucking it up. And he's like, when I get up, he said, the handle on the briefcase breaks. And he said, so to hold it still, he said, you can see my pinky kind of wrap around the briefcase to hold it still. And so when it happens and I'm looking at it, like normally you watching that, you would never spot that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just those little inside tidbits.
I got to rent the movie. Yeah, I love the DVDs. As soon as they came out, and you only had like a few movies that were available. I remember The Mask being one of them, with Jim Carrey. Most of them were X-rated. But there were very few. Hollywood wasn't, releasing movies. My daughter once asked me if we had like computers as a kid. I said, computers. I said, we didn't even have remotes for the television. I said, in fact, I was the remote. My father, change channel, make it louder.
Get up and go turn that knob.
I got even with him. He had his VCR. He liked it. But when the DVDs came out, I got him one. And when the movie was over, I got him his favorite movie. I sat laughing for 20 minutes while he tried to figure out how to rewind the DVD. He was cursing. How do you rewind? It's broke. You got rooked. It's broke.
Yeah, I used to, when I first started getting those, man, my dad is like the least most technical sound dude ever. I was telling him, I was like, Dad, you got these movies here on DVDs. Like, why the hell would you want to listen to that while you're in a car? Dad, what the hell are you talking about? You put it in a DVD player. He's like, yeah, but it's a CD. Don't you play those in the car? I'm like, this is total different technology, Pop. You gotta understand what's going on here. These go in a disc. They go in a DVD player. It plays just like a tape. I said, this is the future. There's no more VHS tapes in a couple of years.
Yeah, he actually thought it wasn't going to last. He says, because you have a CD, you can listen to the same song 100 times, but how many times can you really watch the same movie? I said, well, the main purpose of it is to like rent movies that aren't available on TV, and your old favorite movies, and and then the new ones when they come out, and now it's crazy with the streaming and everything. It's
Oh yeah, it's
I love
out
it.
of this world. And see, I was a big movie fan, so I would go buy all those things. So when DVDs started coming out, I would go and buy them all up, and then they started doing the Blu-rays. So then I would go. I didn't go get all of them the same, but my favorites, like Donnie Brasco, The Godfathers, all those Casinos, Goodfellas, stuff like that. I'd go buy all those, and then now you got 4K coming out, so I had to go buy all those again. So I'm just like, y'all got to stop with this new age technology shit. I'm going broke over here. I got 9 different versions of Scarface sitting over here on the counter.
Hey, I have a present for you. How much time do you have?
Oh, I'm good. I ain't got no time
Okay.
left.
Watch. I'm going to say this when you get here. Give me a
All right.
sec. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. It's a Donnie Brasco sweater.
Wow.
It's yours, all right?
Wow. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was some promotional thing they were giving away at the premiere. A friend of mine, Larry Romano, he played Al Pacino's son in it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think he overdosed in there. I think in the.
Yeah, he's also in Laugh Killer Laugh.
Yeah, the Laugh Killer Laugh. Now, I wanted to touch on that just for a minute because I think
Yeah.
we might have spoke off air, but you were in there with Tom Sizemore, who was also a guest on our show. But William Forsythe, man, what a great underrated actor.
Yeah. I know he's another one with a great body of work.
Dude, I mean, if you look, every movie that we've named, we've named some top-notch movies, but if you look at the people that was right beside him, is
Oh,
William
yeah.
Forsythe. Like, you talk about Amada Santi in the movie Gotti, the 96 Gotti that was on HBO. Who's right beside him but William Forsythe playing Sammy the Bull? He's got movies with Robert De Niro. What's the American Me he was in with Edward James Olmos. I mean, just his body of work, like you said, is just second to none. And he done a really cool movie, one of my favorites, and it had a lot of big stars in it at the time too. Tia Carrera from the Wayne's World films, Chris Rock was in it, and it was called The Immortals. And Eric Roberts was in it. He was kind of the lead guy. And the whole premise was he had put everybody together to do these robberies to rip off this one guy, but everybody had a disease that they were ultimately going to be dead like real soon. And they kind of started figuring that out midway through the movie. But it was just a fantastic film. And I mean, I would love to be able to get with him and interview him at some point because I'm just a fan of all his work. Boardwalk Empire, he was fucking amazing as the butcher.
Yeah, and he's accommodating as an actor. Like he would say, "Listen, would you mind, given, in my reading of the lines, he would ask for like an adjustment to accommodate what he needed." And I had no problems with that. Usually actors don't ask that. We had a good working relationship. I'm like, yeah, sure, if that's what you need, I'll either tone it down or bring it up. It makes no difference to me. And as long as he always gave her good suggestions and stuff, and he needed it so he can respond in a way that he had been rehearsing.
Yeah.
I did a movie with Eric Roberts where he played a congressman, and I was this guy Dave Bontempo, a news reporter, television news reporter, and we're set up, and I'm standing outside, we're in like it looks like a courthouse, and I have my microphone, the clothing, suit, and there's a cameraman there, a good friend of mine, Ron Paula, and we were a block away from the Dakota House. So people are looking like, what's the news story? So I said, the wife of slain Beatle John Lennon was found dead today of apparent overdose in her Dakota apartment. People believed it. People going, yay! And I was like, oh man, because they thought it was a real newscast. You have fun on this set. But when I did Q&A, with Amon Asante,
Yeah.
he's playing Hispanic. So he says to me, hey, Hector, come here, can I have a talk with you? I said, yeah, sure, man, what's up? So he goes, I want to ask you for a favor. Yeah, man, well, lay it on me. Just tell me, what do you need, man? He says, I need you to teach me a Spanish accent. And I actually do what they call a New Eurekan. It's, especially like the East Harlem type of an accent. And I said, listen, don't tell me anybody. I'm Italian. He goes, you're kidding, you know? Like, he wanted me to teach him. I was like, oh, shit. My cover's blown. Because when I go on set, I stay in that character the whole time. Because then I feel fake. Like, if I'm like, hey, man, I want to cut your throat. Hey, which time is lunch? It's like, then you feel like you're faking it.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. I mean, I've heard a lot of people do that though when they get in character for a certain role. I mean, guys like Daniel Day-Lewis, they say that he'll go to the extremes, man. Like just never even talk out of character, never break character for the whole time. Those are guys that just they take that thing to another level. I think they said when he was doing Lincoln, just nobody really even have a conversation with the man.
Yeah, to me too, especially when you're playing like a character so far removed from yourself. And I'm basically a supporting actor. I'm there to support the leads and make their jobs easier. So if they believe I am who I am, and people on the set, they had a rumor that I'm a street guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like people say, well, where have you studied acting? And I said, study acting, man. Who cares? You walk and you talk. What's the acting? And like, so, I had that kind of reputation and it was getting me around a lot of jobs. So, I would just stay in the character.
All right. Well, I got one last question here before we close out and wrap this up. If there was one director in film right now that you haven't had a chance to work with that you would like to work with, who would that be?
Me? No, I know directing is something I wouldn't want to do. For me, it's more about the character and the script itself. Like I just finished a play over last summer called Trial on the Potomac, and it's about what if Nixon didn't resign? What if he decided to fight it? And I played Judge John Sirica, who oversaw the trials, who busted the whole case open.
Right.
And what attracted me to that, I like to have a judge on my resume, to be on that side of the bench for a change.
Yeah.
And but he comes from a poor Italian family, and he made law school right out of high school because he didn't need college at that time. And to support himself through college, he was a professional boxer. and he had a good record too. So I thought that was fascinating. He was a Washington, D.C. District Court judge. He climbed out of the gutter all the way there. And although he was a learned man, the fact that he could kick your ass too, it's like,
Yeah.
a couple of the lines where we're getting a beef with somebody, yeah, I'll kick your ass, you would tell him, Yeah, it was written by a very well-known Las Vegas singer, George Bugatti. And, they're talking about bringing it back and even doing a film version of it. But
Wow.
what a character he was,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So good,
Now I think if I was an actor, man, two of the people that I would probably love to be, because I don't know if I've seen a bad film from them, and maybe that's just me because I'm a fan of them, is Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. Like even if Marty, doesn't stay, obviously he's done some great mob movies, but even when he gets out of that and does things like Wolf of Wall Street and other stuff like that,
yeah,
he's still great no matter what. And Quentin, from his first movie with Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction and on, I mean, just the way he writes is different.
his dialogue's good, but sometimes all his characters have the same speech patterns and everything. And Reservoir Dogs, I thought was ridiculous. You have this undercover cop that's supposed to bust him for this crime. Meanwhile, he's seen him committing murders, and if it was true, he would have busted him for the murders. What the hell was he waiting for?
That's weird that you say that, because I was rewatching that last night, and he's looking at Quentin Tarantino, who's playing Mr. Brown in the car. He's dying, and then he watched Harvey Keitel kill two cops right there in front of him.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing.
And like his movies, a little cartoony to me in a lot of ways. I mean, they're fascinating in the sense you don't know what's going to happen next, and interesting dialogue where like even in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta's talking about what they call Big Macs, and I kind of like it. His last movie, I didn't like at all.
Which
Uh,
one? The Hollywood movie?
yeah, I mean, that whole Bruce Lee scene was ridiculous to begin with, but he used a real life murder to tell a fictional story.
Yeah.
And like, somebody told me they read somewhere that he was defending it, saying, well, they did that with Summer of Sam. But no, what I wrote, what happened in that movie happened. Most of it did.
Right.
But the movie was more about what happened, at the time, it was how the neighborhood, it was like an Italian opera, you have this Italian neighborhood and then the killer comes to town,
Yeah.
it was about the people's reaction was what I always found fascinating about it. But he used Taryn Tate's bloody, horrible murder to tell a story with no truth to it at all. And I found that, I didn't like it at all. It was a horrible, brutal murder. It was a changing time in our country from
Yeah.
free love to murder.
Hmm.
And, it was, I just thought, nah, it's just, and I forget when the scene was ridiculous at the end with the electrocution or something was contrived, But I didn't like that movie at all.
And the blowtorch and everything else at the end.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
just happened to be there,
yeah,
something I forget.
I
Just
think people were expecting something different from that movie, more or less maybe based on the real murders and stuff, kind of like, how
yeah.
Summer Sam was, and they kind of got through for a loop, but then, I read that he changed it up a little bit because he didn't want to exploit it, but I'm kind of like you, if
He did exploit it. I think
you are exploring it, so you might as well do it justice
in
to
the
a certain
sense
point.
that my story in Summer of Sam, uh, could not be told without the killer. Whereas he could have made that same movie without putting Sharon Tate in it, and
Yeah.
she made no difference. She didn't add or anything to the script. He
Yeah.
could have had he made that movie without her. I think it would have been a much better movie. There was no need. He should have made a fictionalized, and he defended it by saying, "Well, it's a fictional story, but then why are you putting a real story in there?"
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all.
You're mixing the two. And back to Reservoir Dogs for a quick second. The guy that was that undercover cop, Tim Roth, right after he watched Harvey Keitel shoot those two cops, when they went and hijacked that car, he shot the woman. The woman shot him because she thought he was, a real carjacker, but
Yeah.
he shot that woman and killed her right there.
That's why I say, it's, I mean, for a general audience that's, not in the film business and it's just a viewer, it's interesting. You don't always, you see things and hear things you never had before. And of course, his music is always phenomenal, and,
Yeah.
so, I mean, he has that going for him, but, I wouldn't say he's my favorite director. As a matter of fact, I always thought that he looked like if Oliver Stone and Bob Hope had a baby, it would look like him. Next time you see him, put Oliver Stone and Bob Hope together.
Oh, man. Well, Vic, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming by the show, man. I've had a blast talking, man. Maybe one day
Oh
we'll
man,
get
I
you
had a
back
lot of
on
fun
here.
too.
Yeah, me too. Maybe one day we'll get you back on here, man. We'll shoot the breeze and talk some more movies and stuff for sure. But I'm going to definitely get
Yeah.
up with you when I come to New York for sure.
And doing this for me is, it's promotion. I'll use it, to promote, my career further, and but yeah, I like to hang out with you and just, talk more about other people's movies than
Yeah.
me, myself, and mine. It's, that's part of the game. Oh man, I told you before we go, I saw on YouTube Dustin Hoffman and De Niro on the David Letterman show. You got to Google it, man.
Yeah.
It's so funny, so funny,
I'm trying to think. Well, they done Meet the Parents together
Yeah,
too, but then they were also in Sleepers. I don't know if you've seen Sleepers. That's one of my favorite movies, man.
Oh,
Sleepers.
I love anything those two are in. De Niro had a movie called The Comic, and
Yeah.
it was too good. I loved him in that. I thought, he got panned for it.
Hmm.
And Dirty Grandpa, I loved him in that.
I did too with
What a
Zac
character.
Efron.
Yeah. You got time for a quick little
Yeah.
story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Danny Aiello, used to eat my mother's restaurant. My mother knows his sister. I used to hang out with his niece, very close. He used to come to the restaurant. And he invited me on Bang the Drum Slowly, one of De Niro's early films, for which he actually got noticed. He stole that film from Michael Moriarty. It gave him his reputation. But I was on the set, and then I was taking the train downtown to go see my girlfriend. and he was on the subway. It was just a scene after they dumped the champagne, and he's on the subway with his hair still kind of wet. So I said, he says, "You're heading downtown? We're right together." Yeah. And I said, "I'm gonna go see my girlfriend." He goes, "Oh, I got to go to acting class." I said, "Wait a minute, weren't you just in a movie?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You go to acting school to get into a movie, right? But once you're in a movie, didn't you graduate? I mean, you still have to go to school even though you're in a movie." And he said to me, "Well, acting is something you never stop learning." He says, "You're always learning. Everywhere you go, everything you say and do, you could learn acting." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, you see that guy over there? Yeah, you watch him, how he moves, what he does. Then look at that guy. And you see how they're different. And that's studying acting." And then the whole ride down from Yankee Stadium to Times Square, he was telling me about acting. I didn't understand a word he was saying. He was like far out there with that. I didn't know anything about acting. But when he got off to the subway, I thought to myself, well, if that guy could be an actor, anybody can. He's a boomie. Who knew? I worked with him in Night in the City too, and there was a scene where I play his cocaine dealer, and he's waiting for me in the bar, and I walk in and he says, "Hey, what took you so long?" I said, the bus hit the subway." And he goes, "Why didn't you take a cab?" I said, "The theater just broke." So Erwin Winkler, who should stick to producing, he he never got a close up of me handing De Niro the cocaine. So I says, "Hey Bobby, man, nobody's gonna know what the scene is about. The bus hit the subway, meaning it crashed into the station. The theaters just broke. They just let out all the cabs are taken." I said, "Nobody's going to know without the close up." He goes, "Well, those that'll know will know. Those that don't know, fuck them." I says, "No, not fuck them. Fuck me. This scene ain't making it in the movie. It just makes no sense at all. And sure enough, it got cut out. But he did give me this. It's rusty. It's a keychain from Night in the City. It says, "Night in the City, love, Jessica Lange, Bobby De Niro, and Erwin Winkler." And I got to clean it, but it has the New York City skyline in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a treasure. It's, I never got out of the eighth grade. I was in the seventh grade twice and the eighth grade twice. And I figured now I'm twice as smart as anyone else, and I quit. So, you know, I mean, most
That's
people,
hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
most people that know me are surprised that, I didn't wind up in jail. And so, having something like this from De Niro, it's like my high school diploma in a way,
Oh,
college
that's
diploma.
those are kind of the stories that we like to tell on here, man. Of people doing it and not necessarily in the most conventional ways. Making it in whatever business they want to, make a living in. A lot of guys too. We've talked to a lot of mob guys on this show, who's obviously had a life of criminal activity, but they went to jail, they've served their time, now they got out and they're doing things the right way, and
Yeah,
trying to tell these kids that that's not the life they need to live, especially
exactly.
nowadays, man. You can't get away with the shit nowadays that you could back in the 70s and the 80s. It's just not going to happen.
Well, today's a lot different. You know, when I was a kid, to be a cop, you just had to be like a guy that got kicked out of school and could kick ass. Basically. You know, and now they need college, and it's a whole different world now. So I never say anything about the eighth grade, but being can fucking curse on your fucking show, I don't think parents gonna fucking let their kids watch this.
I don't know. There's a few. My son's 13, and he came to me the other day, and he's like, "Dad," he's like, "one of my friends said that you got a hell of a, or no, he didn't say hell. He said you got a heck of a good YouTube channel." And I was like, "He watches my YouTube channel?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What all episodes does he watch?" I wanted to kind of quiz him to see if he knew. He's like, "I don't know which one he watched, but he said he was talking with a gangster about how you'd killed somebody or something." I was like, "Well," I said, "Just don't tell
Ah,
him that
yeah,
you're,
I know. Kids today are sophisticated.
yeah,
They're just exposed to so much more. They know,
they are."
everyone says that they're lazy, they're too sensitive. But to me, it's better to be too sensitive than to be insensitive, you know. And I think they are the future of the world, and I think it's going to be a better place to live with that.
Well, I certainly hope so. And like you said, they're they got access to more. Like when I was coming up, it was a while before, we were even able to get internet and stuff like that. So that was kind of the new age where you could go on and learn some stuff at an early age. I mean, I was having to steal cable at an early age, and at nighttime you had the certain channels that would play like the nude stuff there. So that's how I kind of learned about the birds and the bees through the cable we were stealing back in the day. Nowadays, man, you ain't got to do. You can pull on Instagram and see some pretty towing the line shit on there with people in Twitter, and I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
out there, man. It's in front of them, so you might as well at
No
least try to
matter,
tell them that it's out there and expose them to a certain extent.
no matter how parents tries to shelter the kids from that, they're more tech savvy. That they
Oh yeah,
ways to get around that, everything. But I have a 4-year-old grandson in Italy, and I send him things through Amazon Prime, so you don't have to pay shipping. Because it costs more to ship a toy from the post office than the toy costs.
yeah.
So now 4 years old, he goes on Amazon, and he calls me Americano non novito, right? This American grandpa. And so he goes on Amazon, and he'll see something he likes, and he'll look at his mother, Americano nanovito, nanovito. He's like, that he knows he just has to point to it, and she'll tell me what he wants, and I'll send it. So fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're tech savvy. Like I said, I was a great guitarist as a kid, but in my teens. But now you got these kids, 8, 9 years old. I could never be that.
No. And that's one thing that good that I'll say about social media is giving people the avenues to share their talents. Whereas years ago, I feel as though people probably had talents like they have these days, but they didn't have a way to showcase it. Nowadays
Well,
you got people that can put scenes of them acting out scenes or playing instruments and stuff like that, and that would never get seen. And now, it's easy to get spotted doing stuff like that.
well, I don't think as many kids years ago had the talent of the kids today or the abilities.
Right.
They have had the talent, but there's no way to realize them.
Yeah.
I just think that, like I said, there's more access to more information for them. They want to learn a song, they go on YouTube, or I had to listen to a record 100 times. What's that called? What's that called?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's a little bit easier. They can circumvent a lot of extra research that we had to do coming up, like you said, and get kind of the specifics on it. Now, if I can't remember words to a song or something like that, where like you said before, back in the day, I would have to wait for them to play it on the radio and then try to record it and then go back and listen to it. Now you can just pull up full lyrics and read exactly what it is. So it's a lot
yeah,
more easier today for sure.
and I know so many young kids today that are Beatle fans, Elvis fans.
Yeah.
And,
No,
are you an Elvis fan yourself?
I am. I do. I love Elvis. My son, I introduced him to a lot of stuff. He's more of a '80s fan, not all of it. Now he listens to some of the newer stuff, but a lot of '80s rock and stuff like that. I mean, he's a big fan like that. He doesn't get into so much of the Elvis and Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and stuff that I like to listen to. That's a little bit maybe too old for him. But I said, when you get older, I said you might appreciate this kind of music. I said, I don't know if I did at your age either. But I was always a fan of '80s music. I said if I was have been born in any decade, I would have liked to have been like in my early, 20s or late teens in the '80s. That seemed like that would have probably been the best time.
Hey, I know a way. Hey, watch this. I'll get your son to listen to Dean Martin. He likes rock music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you ready for this? I call this Rockabilly. When the moon hits your eye like a big piece of pie, that's amore. When the stars make you drool, just like pasta from drool, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling, and you sing, Rita Bella, hearts will play.
I have to let him hear that.
Yeah. Rockabilly.
Rocco Billy. Well, Vic, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I've had a blast, and I'm going to definitely hit you up when I get down there to New York.
Yeah, me too. You're going to love it here, man. I'm telling you. You're going to have time to hang out. I'll show you around a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Bye, Liz.
I am Hollywood Wade. That was Vic Colicchio.
There you go.
And
Wow.
unfortunately, we are out of time. And we want to give a shout out to Liz Coppola for help brokering this meet.
Yeah.
And I'm glad she introduced me to my new friend Vic here. And we will definitely get together down there in New York.
Okay, Wad. Got you back. Hey, that ain't a bad nickname for a guy.
No, there was a guy
Johnny
that made a
Watt.
good living by there, Johnny Watt. He made a good living doing that.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
Vic, we appreciate it, my friend.
Peace to you.
Yes, sir.